Hello, this is Anthony Geisen, and today I'll be reviewing the 7Artisans 35mm f1.4 lens for the Leica M-mount. 7Artisans did send me this sample lens to review. I've tested this lens for the last 2 months on a Sony a7 III, a Leica M240, and a Leica M6 with Portra 400. I've shot one roll with that Portra 400 and this lens, and I did one photo shoot with the a7 III, but about 80% of the time I was using this lens on the M240. This lens retails at $429. In comparison, Leica's current 35mm f1.4 costs $5,895. Let's see if this 7Artisans 35mm is worth adding to your kit. This is the second 35mm M-mount lens that 7Artisans has produced. I am currently working on a video about the 7Artisans 35 f2 M-mount lens, so subscribe to stay tuned for that. This 35mm f1.4 lens isn't made in 7Artisans' traditional DJ optical factory, but it is still manufactured in China. If you have 7Artisans M-mount lenses, you'll know that you may need to calibrate your lens for your rangefinder. Calibrating on a digital Leica is much easier than calibrating on an analog Leica. On digital, simply follow the calibration instructions that are included in the box. On an analog Leica, you'll need to open the film back, put a piece of Scotch tape across the film plane, and then follow the calibration instructions. It may take a few attempts on an analog Leica to get the calibration correct for your rangefinder. You'll notice that this lens has a new design language, unlike the previous 7Artisans M-mount lenses, which were heavily inspired by Leica's design. It also has a different black paint to the body of the lens, as well as red accents on the feet distance markings and the Wen marking on the hood. The Chinese character Wen means street photography or social documentary photography. The markings around the front element aren't painted in like the markings on the barrel, and it just doesn't look as good. It's a very solid feeling lens made of all metal and glass, weighing 377 grams or about 13.3 ounces without any caps. This is not the smallest 35mm f1.4 M-mount lens on the market. For example, Leica, Voigtlander, and TT-Artisans all have more compact offerings. This lens takes 49mm filters and has a built-in retractable lens hood, which in my experience can get snagged on the front of the lens when I'm opening and closing it. Besides that, it's convenient to have a hood built in, one less thing to carry in the bag. Focusing is done all internally, so whether you're at minimum or infinity, this lens isn't going to get larger and block more of your viewfinder. Viewfinder blockage is just the bottom right corner. The focusing ring is smooth, but also has a nice resistance to achieve precise focus. You can add a focusing tab if that's your preference. This lens has a short focus throw at 100 degrees. Natively, this lens has a minimum focusing distance of 0.7 meters or about 2.3 feet. If you are planning on adapting this lens to another camera system like E-mount, you can get a close focusing adapter to greatly increase that minimum focusing distance. The optical lens design is made with 10 elements in 9 groups. This is a very fast lens at f1.4, but it can also be stopped down to f22, giving this lens a very large aperture range. Equipped with a 10-bladed aperture diaphragm, the aperture ring is also smooth to adjust and has a nice tactile click for each stop. When I went out, I was excited to get back into shooting 35mm focal length. I did worry that it would be tough to get focus at f1.4, but upon reviewing my images, I don't think I missed focus once. I noticed slight vignetting when shooting with wider apertures, however, it was never overwhelming and could be corrected in Lightroom. I absolutely love the colors and contrast that this lens produced while shooting on the M240. If you're taking photos directly towards the sun, you're going to notice some flare in your images. I also didn't notice any focus shift during my use, which is always a plus for us Leica users. When shooting at f1.4 to 2.8, I noticed some chromatic aberration. Here are some zoomed in shots to show that color fringing. As with most lenses in this price range, the lens is sharpest at f4 to f8. Shooting faster than f4 still provides images that are very sharp in the center, but the corners do become softer. I noticed some distortion while shooting towards buildings or straight lines. This can also easily be corrected in Lightroom. I really like the images I got from this lens. The transition from in focus to out of focus is so lovely. The bokeh is very pleasing. This is the kind of lens I can just leave on my M6 and make it work in almost all shooting scenarios and lighting conditions. I think that 7Artisans makes fantastic lenses. Their lenses are great for Leica shooters who want to try out different focal lengths and not spend thousands of dollars to do so. Considering the price, it is impossible to find a better 35mm f1.4 M-mount lens. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see higher resolution images from this review, please check antnie.com/articles. And if you want to see lower resolution images from this review, please check my Instagram, and that's @Antnie.